On that Vermont farm, I could listen again to the inner voice that was caught as I walked the countryside. I'd often write at a table late at night enjoying the solitude of a house in which everyone else was asleep. One evening I wrote through the entire night creating the poem called New Hampshire. Well, as day broke, I went outside to watch the sunrise and suddenly found myself transported to an evening 17 years prior near the dairy farm when I was coming home in the gentle snowfall with the little horse, dejected because I had no Christmas presents for the children. Suddenly, like an hallucination, this poem came to me. Well, I went inside and wrote it down in one sitting, except for the last line. I was struggling with that last line. The way I had written it, it was calling for another stanza, and I didn't have another stanza in me. And I didn't want to write another stanza. Well, later that morning, as I often did, I showed it to Eleanor, and she said, "Rob, you have a fine poem here." And I said, "Well, Eleanor, what about that last line?" And she said, "Well, why don't you just try repeating it?" And I said, "Repeat it?" She said, "Yeah, repeat it." When I did, it finished the poem perfectly. Now, this poem is written on one page, but I swear I could write 40 pages of footnotes about it. It contains all I ever knew. Even as I wrote it, I thought, Rob, this one here might just be your best bid for remembrance. I'll say it for you. Whose woodsies are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep.
Pete brought us into the life of Robert Frost, and it just kind of brought us up close and personal. It was amazing.
I'm coming away with a more human understanding of one of the greats, and I'd recommend it to anyone who likes literature and who likes to feel.
I don't think I've ever seen anything where you get to hear the history of a poet and know their story and hear their poems throughout their story and how they were inspired and why. It's incredible, informative, loved it.
Truly a privilege listening to this performance tonight. I'll remember it till my dying day.